I would love to have all the judges sit on the first and second row, and that is the game plan. But if a judge says, no, I prefer to sit in the back, I'm not gonna stop them. So you wanna make sure that you are projecting your voice and speaking a little bit louder and a little bit clearer, okay? So you press record?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so let's start over. Okay, all right, Julio, are you ready? All right, start.
Good evening, everyone. We are Team 3, and we'll be presenting our EV network analysis for Shell.
Good evening, my name is An Do, Junior in Finance and ISDS.
My name is Daniel Litchwood Jr. I'm a senior majoring in Information Systems and Decision Sciences.
My name is Joshua Longa. I'm a freshman majoring in electrical engineering.
Hello everyone, my name is William Wu. I'm a senior majoring in accounting. So we recommend Shell to invest into Ceradel because we believe that Ceradel provides the best opportunity for Shell to power the 4 pillars of powering lives strategy. And An will talk a little more about how exactly Ceradel can help with that.
So among many reasons, the main reason is because of Ceradel's rapid economic growth, which is predicted to increase GDP by 6 times by 2070, and also their population will increase to 6.5 million by 2070. And along with previous involvement with Ceradel is also the fact that their labor cost is a lot less than the other country. Also, their abundance of natural resources.
Shell's market entry strategy aligned very well with their 4 core pillars, which include generating shareholder value, powering lives, achieving net zero emissions, and respecting nature. Through investment in Ceradel, Shell can power lives by creating jobs in the country and providing education to the youth of Ceradel, as well as providing reliable electric power, which many in Ceradel are lacking. Shell can also generate shareholder value by investing to Ceradel as its economy grows. Since Ceradel is a rapidly developing economy, Shell can take advantage of its current low cost of labor, and in the future can take advantage of high profit by volume. Shell will also be respecting nature by working with the Sarantia tribe to respect their native lands while also contributing to decarbonization and reduction in emissions through transportation. And Shell will ultimately achieve net zero emissions through a development of an EV charging network, which will again reduce emissions from transportation in Ceradel.
So unfortunately, there are a few setbacks to investing in Ceradel. For one, their government is democratic. However, this was only as of 3 years ago. They had a coup 14 years ago, and this government could be a little rocky and might not last forever. Second, economic. Income inequality is a very big problem in Ceradel. A large portion of the population is very poor, so this is something that Shell needs to tackle. Economic growth is important for Ceradel. The government is looking to increase their economic growth and get people out of poverty if possible. There's a large reliance on subsidies by corporations that go into Ceradel, which could impact the financial viability of the EV charging network. Next, energy access is extremely low. Only 70% of people do not have access to electricity, so this is something that Shell will need to work with the Ceradel Power Utility to expand energy to those areas that are lacking it. Next, 95% of citizens prefer a low cost over lowering emissions. However, there is a large portion of the population that is interested in having energy-related infrastructure. So it's very possible that they can get people to focus on carbon reduction while also having a low cost. Finally, the Sarantia tribe is hesitant to work with outsiders. However, Shell has had experience in Ceradel in the past few decades, despite pulling out after the coup. So there is a chance that the Sarantia tribe can work together with Shell as long as Shell keeps them up to date with everything that they do.
So in order for Shell to succeed in Ceradel, they must go through these 5 stages. Stage 1 is developing the infrastructures in relationship with the people. As Daniel has mentioned, Ceradel is currently low on energy, so Shell needs to figure out how to transfer power to the cities and to major rural village, so that when people want to charge the electric vehicles, they're able to get that power. Another thing is that developing relationship with the people. The Caribbean tribe, which contains about 70% of the population, they have a negative experience with foreign investors. So in order to work with them, Shell needs to work with them to respect their cultures and also to provide opportunities such as job and education, develop a happy and trustworthy relationship with the people. Once that is established, they can move on to stage 2, which is introducing the EVs and offering incentives. Shell can work with other companies that produce EVs manufacturers. This will be contract basis where the EV producer will produce the EVs and sell it to the people of Serendale, and Shell will focus on maintaining the infrastructure to deliver the power to them when it needs to be charged. This contract is supposed to be mutually beneficial. And as well as working with the government to offer incentives such as tax credit, so that there's more people are willing to buy EVs over traditional ICU, especially the fact that the people of Serendale, they care more about price over environmental concern. The next stage will be lithium battery production. To ensure that price stays stable and consistent, we recommended Shell to take advantage of Serendale's natural resource to produce lithium battery. This helps to protect themselves from supply shock. If supply shock were to happen without lithium battery production, price of EV could dramatically rise up and will affect the EV adoptions. After that has been done, we move on to stage 4, where Shell needs to maintain lower costs. It is very important to maintain a consistent low cost so that over time, people will naturally adopt EV over traditional ICE because they are more price sensitive over environmental concern. Over longer period of times, when all these factors are considered in place, net zero emission will happen naturally.
So to reinforce Will's point on the 5 stages of success and to make sure that it works, Shell will need to contact many stakeholders, which include the Serendale government. That will include the civic leaders, since it is their government, and they do need to approve of our form to enter the market once again. And the Serendale Power Grid, as we have to invest in infrastructure and increasing the reach that energy can get to. The other part of it is a society, which include the Serendale citizen, which would eventually happen when the cost of EVs lower and they recognize the benefit for it. And the Serentia tribe, since we do need to talk to them to let us build infrastructure on their land.
To reach out to these stakeholders, Shell will have to take various steps, and some things Shell will have to consider is that the Serentia tribe are very wary of foreign entities, so we'll have to make sure we work with them in order to respect their ancestral land while also developing an EV charging network. And we would like to also take initiatives to empower and educate their youth, perhaps through fellowship and internship programs, so that the Serentia tribe will be more on board with Shell's involvement in their country. And as we shift to an expansive power grid that connects to those rural areas that have very intermittent power transmission, then as shown by Sky 2050, the EV adoption will reach 80% by 2050, and green technologies will be on the rise. But to appease the price-conscious citizens of Serendale, Shell will also take advantage of Serendale's abundance of natural resources like nickel and cobalt, which are used in EV manufacturing, and also explore innovations in the EV business model. For example, selling electric two-wheelers without batteries and then renting batteries to citizens to reduce the upfront cost of buying an EV.
So, as seen earlier in the potential setbacks, while Shell was in the country previously, they used to have a license, and unfortunately now they don't. They're going to have to get a new one. To get one, Shell has to answer these key points provided by the Foreign Investment Approval Office, which is the scope and impact and low-cost transport. To begin, the scope and impact, Shell infrastructure already exists. Shell can use this to convert already existing infrastructure into charging infrastructure if investment allows. Next, the market is young and concentrated in urban areas. While we do want to expand out to the rural areas, it would be a good idea to tell the government that we're going to invest in the urban, pushing outwards to the rural areas once we have a very expansive power grid. Expanding to rural areas will synergize with the objectives provided by Shell and the government, which is to promote ecotourism and expand the power grid so that people outside of the urban centers can have power. Next, low-cost transport, similar areas as per the McKinsey report, which is the Shell Foundation report on sub-Saharan Africa. They mention the amount of minibuses and electric two-wheelers. They say how prevalent they are in those countries and how important they are. In addition of high-speed charging in between suburban areas for minibuses would be very economical due to the amount of people that live in urban centers and people that live in rural areas. Due to them needing transport between the areas, this would be low cost because you would have high-speed charging in between. Next, strategic EV locations for electric two-wheelers would be ideal because of their commercial viability in Serendale. If that region is similar to sub-Saharan Africa, these vehicles make up a large portion of their vehicles. Next, according to Exhibit 1 from the McKinsey report, you can see how electric four-wheelers, two-wheelers, LCVs, which are light commercial vehicles, and minibuses make up a portion of the annual electric vehicle sales in the 5 target regions from the McKinsey report. While minibuses do not make a large portion of this, they can have more than a dozen people on them usually, so they are economically viable. Next, you can see that a large portion of vehicles by 2040 in these countries are electric two-wheelers, so it's a good idea to invest in them too. Four-wheelers and light commercial vehicles are on there, but they aren't as prevalent.
So to talk about a long-term view for the project, within the first 10 years as Shell invests in Serendale's infrastructure, there will be a lot less profit coming into Shell. However, this is to build up the foundation for future profits. Within 25 years, as the EV's adoption have gone up, Serendale will see more toward the larger profit. And as it go up to 50 years, when ICE has been banned, that is when Shell, since ICE EV's adoption have reached the maximum, Shell will eventually get a large market share of Serendale's EV's market, and as such, they will keep up with the competition.
So Shell has 2 worldviews, Sky 2050, which is security through cooperation, and Archipelago, which will be on the next slide. To begin, we want to cover both of these scenarios because the future is uncertain, so it's best to cover both bases. With Sky 2050, Serendale becomes a hub for green technologies, in particular lithium batteries. Next, they focus their industries on ecotourism as well, which provides synergy with Shell's objective of caring for nature and providing value to the shareholders. By 2040, ICE vehicles are banned, and by 2050, EV adoption is up to 80%. To continue, they have Archipelago, which is security through self-isolation. In this case, both regions on either side of Serendale will enact border tax adjustments that will cause the industries to slowly decarbonize because they don't have enough capital to actually decarbonize. However, they still focus on ecotourism. By 2060, ICE vehicles are banned, and by 2050, EV adoption is at 50%. Now, while we like Sky 2050 more than Archipelago, we did notice that both eventually lead to the same outcome, even if Archipelago is a little bit slow.
Now, we referenced the McKinsey report several times in our presentation because Shell had already assessed market potential for EV charging in 5 target countries in sub-Saharan Africa, which include Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Nigeria. And now these various countries are very similar to Serendale, as they are also developing countries who have low electricity reliability as well, as similar to the citizens of Serendale. These governments, specifically the government of Rwanda, have already offered incentives for EV adoption, as Rwanda has included a tax incentive for advancements towards EV adoption. An investment to Serendale would provide jobs, reduce emissions, and empower lives the same way the Shell Foundation has done in similar countries in Asia and Africa.
So here's what Shell can do to help finance the investment. Shell can help to incubate the startups and the lower business companies. Because Shell is a big company, they can utilize their resources to help startups to develop technologies that can help with the EV adoption. So it is very important to get grant to make this industry keep going firing up. Another method will be cutting down our charging costs. We'll be using carbon credits. In the article, it does mention that for Serendale, by 2050, carbon credit costs will be $49, and this can be used as a subsidy to help lower costs, lower costs for charging the EV, which is very important for the people of Serendale, especially the fact that they are price sensitive over environmental concern.
So, from the McKinsey report, it shows that similar sub-Saharan African countries, as mentioned before, will require $3.5 to $8.9 billion of investment towards EV adoption. So adjusting for Serendale's relatively smaller population size, we would expect investments in Serendale to cost from $100 to $200 million. And in 2023, Shell reported $19.6 billion in net income. So investment in Serendale would be less than 1% of Shell's net income.
So, to conclude, Shell's objectives synergize with the objectives of Serendale's government. A large upfront investment will be required because they have little infrastructure. However, completion objectives will provide value for Shell. Shell, working with the people of Serendale, will secure their position within the country when the Serenchid tribe, like Shell and the youth population, they're hopeful for green energy, so they want Shell to be here. An impact of investment will empower the lives of Serendale citizens by providing them with power, jobs, and education. Finally, investment into the country will comply with the pillars Shell strives for, which is caring for nature, providing shareholder value. I blinked out on that one, sorry. Do you have any questions?
Okay, so that's okay, because this was a quick run through, and you're still kind of gathering your, oh, stop your clock, stop your recording.